went off or back on or.
I can check real quick, I think.
Actually, it was muted. And I overlooked it. Is that gonna be, that's gonna be a problem?
No, I mean, we're required to, I mean, you can redo the resolutions if you want to, but we're required to the best of our ability to live stream the meetings. So if you want to go back and for the purposes of the YouTube, explain what those resolutions were that were adopted, the minutes, the treasurer's report. But,
What about the one that's gonna be?
and this
taped?
one, yeah, you could,
The one that's taped, though, will have audio and.
I don't know.
This,
No.
well, this is all we have is,
Skip that.
we have visual and audio, but they're not together. I mean, it's unmuted now. It was absolutely a mistake. I had it muted before the meeting and then I forgot to unmute it.
And I only was looking at my meeting minutes, and I just saw the note on my phone.
I think for the purposes of the record, for people that are tuning into YouTube, we can go back through the resolutions that were adopted. If you want to reiterate the resolution regarding the UTEP. But you're in compliance with the law. We're required to our best ability to live stream.
So for the record, we approve the minutes of December 19th, 2022 IDA Moore meeting. Second, we approve the accounts payable for the IDA payables. Year-to-date financial report, got to get back to that one. So why don't you give the year-to-date financial report that we sort of skipped?
Sure. Well, you've all been presented it. I'm not sure what report you're looking for.
Financials?
Yeah, no, I understand that, but you've all been provided the, for your information. I guess I would point out that the health balance sheet is very healthy. We put some money into investment account. And that was money we obtained for the project in Whitehall down in New York City. The CHP,
Right.
CHP, too many acronyms.
Mhm.
CHP project, so that strengthens the balance sheet significantly, very minimal liability. On the income side, you're looking at operating revenue of $1 million, just over $1 million with expenses, operating expenses of $400,000. So there are other items in here that reflect the land value that we obtained, and other watering taxes that we paid on that property. But when I focus on this, I'm looking at an operating basis, and we're in a positive. The audits will be done at 12/31/22 within the next 90 to 120 days, and that's when we will actually see any changes to this report. But I would open it up to any questions on this income statement and balance sheet.
Canal side, thank you. Canal side master plan update. We had the canal side master plan update, talk about our plans for meetings to start the development process and engineering process for the canal side. I just received some news today that the state has this fast New York process. We submitted a letter of I don't remember what the S stands for, but a letter of intent to apply for the process. So the preliminary application we did get today, got a positive feedback that we are eligible to put in a full submission to that. That's potentially to cover the cost down at the canal side of installing sewer, water, whatever else has to be done to correct that. So that was a benefit. I think the total is that. And part of the engineering things we're doing right now is to also put in that get the cost so we can apply for this fast New York and have a firm number what we're looking for. Right now, we have only estimates. It's the engineering process that needs to take a look at it. I don't know if you want to do any highlights of your staff report.
I could very quickly just point out that there were several meetings with potential applicants. Point out that we're advancing the Canal Side Energy Master Plan with meetings not only within the IDA, but also Jarrett Engineers, Washington County Sewer District, Canal Corp, and the Village of Port Edward. Point out that we are working on our messaging with being communications, R being the IDA. We're also looking to update our IDA website for better marketing and also to continue with all our compliance activity. Just quickly looking over my notes, we did have some meetings with the Agricultural Stewardship Association and attended a webinar on smart solar as we work into the world of the solar projects. And also we are entertaining a proposal to consider applying to become a bioeconomy development opportunity zone. More to come on that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Who's doing the computer, the website?
Black Dog.
Sorry.
In conjunction with being,
Sorry.
in conjunction with being, okay. Then there was UTEP discussion. UTEP discussion is that, I'll repeat it. We were trying to,
Will you reread the resolution that we passed, just so everyone knows for the record?
our intention was to get input from towns up front. When we proposed that, we're still in the comment period. We have not adopted any new UTEP. We're still operating in the old one. There was concerns that we have, excuse me. There was concerns from some towns in Washington County that want to maintain what is sort of known as the opt-out, which is not the right description, but everyone knows what that means. I introduced a resolution to acknowledge that we are putting forth a resolution. It says resolution concerning municipal approval in connection with the uniform tax exemption policy. Whereas the agency has previously adopted the uniform tax exemption policy pursuant to the provisions of the general municipal law. And whereas the agency has proposed revisions to its uniform tax exemption policy and has sought the input from taxing jurisdictions according to the provisions of general municipal law. And whereas based on initial feedback, the agency has determined that it is in the best interest of Warren and Washington County to maintain the provision of the uniform tax exemption policy that requires the agency to obtain approval of certain municipalities in which a proposed project to be located, also known as Appendix N. Now therefore be resolved, the agency hereby agrees to maintain the provision of the uniform tax exemption policy requires the agency to obtain approval of certain municipalities in which a proposed project is to be located. This resolution shall take effect immediately. And I think we passed that, didn't we?
Yes,
Okay, good.
so. We're working on a solar policy at the moment too, but that's totally separate from the UTEP or will be included in the UTEP.
It's included.
It'll be included.
So out of our meeting came the fact they didn't want sales tax and mortgage tax to even be really considered in solar projects because it's a one-time deal where there's no future job creation. And I think that needs to be pointed out at this time. I'm not saying we're gonna adopt everything tonight, but I think everybody needs to be aware. And I have asked.
Just to put it on record, we're not adopting anything in
Right.
the UTEP. We still have 45 days of comment.
Right, so I'm just bringing it up now, so we can all hear it again, because it
Yep.
needs to be processed, so my suggestion was. Our two counties use separate distribution of sales tax, that's the biggest difference we have, we're not even close in the same street. Your county probably gets as much money on your 50% that you don't share as we get on all that we get. So there's quite a discrepancy. So we really need a sheet when something's in Warren County and Washington County, when it's in either county. We need a sheet that goes like per 100,000 of sales tax that's on the table. Now, if it's not on the table at all, that's a whole different thing, but you can look and see why it shouldn't be on the table maybe. But you can easily, if you have a sheet that says per 100,000 of sales tax, this is what the county would get, this is what each town would get. Because each county is gonna be different, but you can see what effect that has on your actual county, on your actual town, on your actual village, the whole bit, right down through. And it would help us to make a better decision. Because it wasn't until that all came to light, the size of some of these and the magnitude is what that can do something in our county. The town's going to get up where it amounts to a lot. Boy, in your county, there's towns that adds up to a lot.
So-
But we can't make a good decision if we don't even know that. And I'm not sure that everyone on the board, as supervisors, we have some idea of that, but people that are just on the IDA may not be able to recognize that quickly, but
So,
we need a sheet that will make us even recognize it instantly. So we know that that's part of the discussion going forward.
so I want to be clear, this is only on solar,
That's not sold.
if we ever do any solar projects. I think that this has been a education process all along. And something looked at, and there is a question, I think that General Municipal Law 852 really put solar on our plate. So it wasn't something we chose. We actually chose not to, but General Municipal Law 852. I don't remember what the quote was, but it's in their policy, and it says that in the law, it states that we are responsible for promoting solar. So that's where it came from. We're still working through some of the bugs or knowledge, but we're learning a lot more. And we're working with an appraiser out of Rochester, Buffalo, I can't remember which, someplace out there, that actually does appraisals. And his statement was, every single project is different. You can't coin a project based on what you think the financials are. So that's something I think is important, going to recognize what's going on. So
But there is a difference between promote and incentivize. We can promote without incentivize.
that's,
But
I will
But
ask
in
the
that-
attorney to,
and that'll have to go forward
I'll
when
let
we.
Brian, let's let the attorney answer that.
I mean, I'm not sure promote what,
We can promote with pilots and things like that, but we don't have to incentivize with sales tax and mortgage tax.
right, you
We-
can
we have
choose.
those, we have the ability to
Mhm.
decide and decipher which way.
And that should be identified in your policy,
In
the
the solar policy.
criteria, because if you're gonna treat solar companies different, there has to be some criteria in that policy that explains, that gives you the right. So you don't have a potential claim from one solar company from another. Well, why did that solar company get this versus I get, so you've got to have the ability to, look at each project separately
Yeah.
and from the benefits that the project.
And there could also be situations where there's wetlands and landfills where that may need some toying with, I don't know. Something where it costs a lot more to be there, maybe we have to look at those. But for the straight up projects, especially farmland, I think that they don't need incentives, that's the easy hanging fruit for them, just go on a field that's clear, just go in and set this stuff down. So I think that.
Brian, I think we have to go back to our appraisal method and do it on a case by case basis. If
But
we
you
get involved in
can't
something,
set your policy on a case by case method. That's. the
You can
thing.
set a
That's what
procedure, you
Eric
can-
said.
you can set
Eric
up,
said you set the policy and then you work off that.
Yeah, I mean, there are ideas that their UTEP policy is on a case by case basis. Obviously, that presents some issues when you're reviewing them, and you don't have any criteria to be based on that. Our recommendation would be that there is some sort of criteria review.
correct. Procedure review.
That's the idea of the policy. That's the idea of the
I
policy.
was going Italian on their policy, individual, I'm sorry, I said I was going Italian on there, I wasn't, what's a policy is individual, I don't know. Gotta be a policy first.
That's right.
Mr. Chairman, we're gonna do reach out to all the municipalities in both counties,
We have,
Warren also.
we have.
Okay.
Every taxing jurisdiction received the comment sheet.
And that was my question, did it all go certified mail?
Absolutely.
I just need to know because I just reading the stuff from the governor and I'm thinking, I don't know if we said everything, but it sounds like now we are. If we're already doing it.
Not everything,
Good job.
Brian.
Good job, Kara.
Not everything, Brian. There's certain requirements. If I'm sending a letter to Dana Half, that says, good job, buddy. I don't have to send that certified.
Yes, you do, so he knows it. That it really.
Never happened. That letter file.
That's where you send things. Okay, stop the conversation. Okay, passed. I did receive some correspondence where the rest of the board received also that talks about the difficulties in pricing things and getting supplies and supply chains from a vendor that takes care of a large multi-franchise organization that talks about the real disruptions in supply chains and real disruption in pricing so that they have no control over what the projects are going to cost. So it was an interesting thing, so in my opinion. So resolution for Etain. Distributed resolution for Etain, who was looking for an extension of the completion date of their project.
You want to explain what?
Yep.
How that came about? So they, so in July, this board approved of an extension of the sales tax authorization through October 1st, 2023. And their counsel had reached out to me for a copy of it. And then he said, is the project completion date already, it also extended? And when I pulled the minutes, it just says that we extended the sales tax authorization. We wouldn't extend the sales tax authorization if the project was complete because it's only during the term of construction. So in my opinion, it kind of goes hand in hand. Their attorney was just wanted to be sure that we weren't going to say, oh, your project wasn't completed by the initial date and pull the rest of their benefits. So they're asking us to just clarify that when the sales tax extension was extended through October 1st, 2023, that also included the extension of the project completion date. And we understand that it's not done currently.
So they're just crossing their eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just need a resolution to change the date to the same date.
We don't, yeah, just modify that July resolution to indicate that it also includes the extension of the project completion date through October 1st. I think it was, I can't remember what the prior date was, but we
You just
approved
want
this,
that.
we approved this in July.
So second,
Moved by Craig, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Anything else from the board?
Just for the Bucks County with Scotty extension, so section extension to 31 January.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I reached out to him, he said he's all set.
All right, just checking. That's a meeting, right?
The Scotty's at the industrial park.
Good. Hold on.
I know, he called my bluff.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman. Fast is focused attraction of shovel-ready tracks.
correct. Correct. So, any other from the board? Okay. As you know, we generally do not have a public comment section of our meetings as we are not required by law to include this on our agendas. That said, as you know, Travis has sent a series of emails concerning the project commonly known as CBE Solar Project. At this time, I will grant Travis privilege of the board for no more than 10 minutes to address the board with his comments. For purposes of the record, we have begun an initial review of the comments made to date and do not believe that modifications to the project's approval process is required. For today's meeting, the intention is to take Travis's comments under advisement, review internally and with counsel. Again, the purpose here is to permit Travis to present his information. The board's function today is to listen. This is not a moment of question and answer or public debate. It is a presentation by a concerned citizen.
So, thank you. I'm going to send you a 2-page write-up. I'm not going to try to read all of this because I don't think I can in 10 minutes. And you will be forwarded copies, hopefully I'll send it to your secretary and your chairman. I'm going to start in the middle of this because that's going to really tell you why I'm doing this. I want to read you what General Municipal Law 859A says. additional prerequisites to provisions of financial assistance. Number 4A, a statement acknowledging that the submission of any knowingly false or knowingly misleading information may lead to the immediate termination of any financial assistance and the reimbursement of an amount equal to all or part of the tax exemptions claimed by reason of agency involvement in the project. The good news is that statement is in your resolution. The bad news is I think there's a lot of false and misleading information that was presented at the public hearing and in the meeting, and that was so stated. You actually debated whether or not you would consider any of that before taking a vote, and ultimately decided to take the vote without challenging that. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what some of the problems are. I would suggest that you consider them against any other information that you might get that might counter what I have to say, and rewrite that resolution so that you won't be penalized, by putting in false or misleading information. And that way we protect both you and your client, CBE, in this case, because I'm sure he wouldn't like to see an 80% increase in taxes all of a sudden 2 years into the project, and then a request for the first 2 years back as well at the same time. So my initial paragraph addresses the solar policy. And I did submit a FOIL request about a week ago asking for any written evidence that it was ever undone. I haven't heard back anything regarding that yet. As far as I know, that policy was in place at the public hearing, and therefore the two people, the representatives from the town and from the school district who expressed their concerns should have carried an awful lot of weight. In fact, what it says is it's better addressed by the municipalities and Warren and Washington counties. It can't get any clearer than that. So why you went on burdening those people, I think it was going against policy. The law, by the way, further goes on that says that each agency shall develop and adopt by resolution uniform criteria for the evaluation and selection for each category of projects for which financial assistance will be provided. At a minimum, the criteria shall require that for each project, the following must occur prior to the approval of the provision of financial assistance. A, an assessment by the agency of all material information included in connection with the application for financial assistance as necessary to afford a reasonable basis for the decision by the agency to provide financial assistance for the project. B, a written cost benefit analysis by the agency that identifies the extent to which a project will create or retain permanent private sector jobs, the estimated value of any tax exemption to be provided, the amount of private sector investment generated or likely to be generated by the proposed project, likelihood of accomplishing the proposed project in a timely fashion, extent to which the proposed project will provide additional sources of revenue for municipalities and school districts, and any other benefits that might occur as a result of the project. So now that you know what you're going to be weighed against, I do have a series of problems. I first went ahead and explained that the cost benefit calculation was nonsense, that you're adding apples and oranges. I'm not going to try to explain that further in the limited time I have left, but it simply makes no sense. There is also stated very plainly that there were $0 of other public funding. Yet when questioned about that at the very same meeting and before your vote, you were told that by the representative from CVE that, oh yes, indeed, they are taking money from NYSERDA and from the federal government as far as their federal tax credits. Well, that federal tax credit would be just shy of $5 million on a $15 million project. And while I do not have a good number for NYSERDA, but you guys should, and I encourage you to find out what it is, my estimate is that would also be in that same general area of $4 to $5 million, perhaps more. So when you look at the local advantages, benefits that you're giving him, the state tax reductions, the NYSERDA um, incentives and the 30% federal tax provision. Turns out that he gets nearly the entire $15 million in incentives, and yet doesn't want to pay his taxes. So you need to look at that. The original public hearing was stated that the original project cost estimate was roughly $10,475,000, which was later increased to $14,447,500, and duly noted as part of the benefit calculation. However, when figuring out the cost of the tax forgiveness on the top part of that thing, that figure was not updated. With the updated figure, the lost property taxes will increase by over 50%, meaning that we'll not be losing $2.5 million, but nearly $4 million. This is local. The assumed tax rates were not escalated over the 15-year period either. Even a modest 2% increase would make a substantial difference. There is you need to, whenever you put these things together over a 15-year period, you need to look at the present value of money and the difference between money over a series of years. So what you went ahead and did, for instance, was to go ahead and add each of these payments, these pilot payments, which were escalated by 2% a year. At the bottom, you said, okay, this is $562,000. Actually, if you adjusted it for the inflation and use that same 2% number, which would be a very modest number to choose, you would find out that it turns out that you just multiply 15 times your, the first year pilot. So that also reduces it. There are any number of these things, and they're pointed out in detail in what you'll get. I encourage you to look at this to make sure that you're not in violation of law, and then to revote on the project. I hope I did that in time.
You got 2 minutes.
Excuse me?
You got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I reserve that. Can I take this 2 minutes? I passed my 2 minutes to Mr. Hadley.
2 minutes.
Let me quit.
I'm Dana Hatt, the supervisor of the town of Hartford, which is the heart of Washington County. I have
Used to
a
be.
few comments what I've heard today. Dave, thank you for that resolution about the end list of certain towns.
Mhm.
Did you ad lib when you said otherwise known as the appendix N, or is that in?
That was ad-libbed.
Could that be added to the resolution? Because I don't think you know what certain towns would mean, but if you refer to appendix N or call it a new name,
Well, that would be,
because this is very important to Washington County. I have the appendix N here, and in Warren County, there's only 3 towns, but in Washington County, there's 9 towns on that list. Also, we had a question at the Washington County Finance meeting, a lot of discussion about what we call the 487 opt-out list. 487 is a property tax exemption, and that also is near and dear to Washington County because we have so much agricultural land that we don't want to give up any exemptions if we don't have to. But I think to be proper, you all keep saying solar, solar, solar. But Kara, wouldn't it be proper if it was called, because the 487 exemption is solar, wind, and farm waste energy? Wouldn't you call it solar, wind, and farm waste energy, or are you only talking solar?
You know what it's actually called? I know it's how we talk about renewable energy projects based in basic terms in the proposed draft, but I don't have it.
renewable energy.
Yeah,
That's what we use.
it might be more generic, but we'll confirm that.
Okay, also, when Matt Simpson was the chairman here, it was your resolution 2018, resolution number 7. And that resolution says that if you are basically a 487 opt-out town, that the IDA would send any solar projects back for local concern. Now you talk, that's a solar policy, but now you talk about renewable energy policy. Is it a new name for your solar policy, or does that solar policy
still remain in effect and renewable energy is something else. Because when I go back and I read the minutes of November 2021 and December 2021, you refer to renewable energy and rescinding old ones, but they don't specifically talk about the solar policy from 2018. So I'm just kind of confused what you're talking about. We could have some clarity on that. I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Go ahead, Doug, you got 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always makes a point. Doug Beatty, supervisor representing Queensberry on the county board. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me a couple of minutes. I appreciate that. I've got real concerns, obviously, with this solar project from the number of standpoints. I'm gonna put on my county hat. We're gonna lose, we're not going to gain $462,000 worth of taxes if this goes through. $162,000 mortgage tax, forget it. County doesn't need it. $300,000 in sales tax, county residents, we don't need that. That's almost $500,000 Warren County's gonna take a hit on. That's real numbers, even for Warren County, which we get all this sales tax money, that's real money, $500,000. Now I'm gonna put on my Queensberry hat. The town of Queensberry is going to lose significant money, and more importantly, the biggest tax hit is going to be on the school district. The school district's going to take over $2 million hit on this. So the residents of Queensberry, for a project that will not have any new jobs, that will not generate any sales tax, is going to take a huge financial hit on this, in the sense that they won't be getting that money in. So I have a real problem with that. And I think anybody from Queensberry, anybody from Warren County, anybody from Washington County, because this sets a very bad precedent, in my opinion, of having all the taxpayers fund all the solar projects. Doesn't make sense financially. And by the way, upstate New York, according to the latest stats I saw, is the cleanest, what is it, Travis? It's the Least amount of carbon per megawatt electricity produced in the entire nation.
So the least amount of carbon produced in the entire nation. The entire nation. Not just New York State, the entire nation. That's really significant. So it's not like we're not doing our part. But this, I hope that this board will reconsider where they are, re-vote on this after they get all the information that I think they were lacking before, but now they're getting educated on. And they will vote this down because this will be a severe financial hit to the Queensberry School District, which is 78% of those taxes. It'll be a significant hit to them, a significant hit to the town, and $500,000 to Warren County is a lot of money. I can tell you that as a county supervisor and as also representative from Queensberry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the 2 minutes. I appreciate it.
All right. Meeting adjourned.
Motion.
I need a motion. You're in the motion. Read your Robert's Rule of Orders.
Thank you, first of all, but I am going to send you another FOIL request. When I was on the board, I know we passed a resolution saying